In Fire Emblem, leveling up is usually a good thing. You gain stats and maybe learn a good skill, but that's boring. So I modded my version of Fire Emblem Fates to make leveling up as bad as possible. So now, every time one of my units levels up, all stats will decrease 100% of the time, meaning instead of getting stronger with each level, my units will get much weaker, which should make the game get progressively harder as I play. But this still isn't hard enough for me. So for this challenge, I'm also banning the use of the capture command, and I'm also going to ban myself from completing any of the child unit paralogs. These two features would allow me to easily gain new powerful units, and I think this would sort of ruin the point of the challenge, as I could just easily replace a unit who's lost a lot of stats from level ups. So this ruling means if my units lose stats, I'm going to have to deal with it. In addition to this, I'm not allowed to use any of the DLC or benefits from this orb in my castle. And of course, I'm going to be attempting this on a Lunatic Classic difficulty. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and let's start this run off by making my Korin, which is going to be plus HP minus magic, and I'm going to pick only Savage as Korin's secondary class so I can cheese one specific enemy near the end of the game with counter. Anyway, the prologue is the exact same map as always. I just killed 2 enemies easily with Korin and moved on to chapter 1, which is also pretty much the exact same map as usual. I just moved Korin up to Xander and attacked 4 times for an easy win and my first level up for this run. On chapter 2, I cleared away the debris with the Dragon Vein and positioned like this to engage Rinka and Kaze squads on enemy phase. Next, I tried to do the usual strat of use Gunter's dual strikes to kill Kaze, but Korin was 1 strength off the kill because of her last level up. So I just had to hold the left choke by killing an Oni with Korin, and I held the right choke with Gunter. During enemy phase, Korin and Gunter now took significant damage, so I couldn't safely kill Kaze without a sacrifice, and I ended up dying to Rinka on enemy phase. On attempt 2, I got Jacob killed on turn 2, so I reset again, and attempt 3 went much better. This time, rather than attempt to take on both Rinka and Kaze squads at the same time, I decided to focus exclusively on taking Kaze's squad down. On this attempt, Gunter dodged twice against Kaze, which makes this samurai not attack. Next, I moved Jacob behind Kaze to keep him safe from Rinka, attacked and secured the kill with Korin. With Gunter, I now blocked 1 samurai from attacking Korin and killed the other. On enemy phase, Jacob now took down the other samurai, and thanks to her HP boon, Korin survived the attacks coming her way. Now I just had to attack again to take Rinka down and gain another level. Finally, I blocked the choke with Gunter and beat the chapter on the next turn. Chapter 3 is where Korin's rapidly decreasing stats are actually going to be a problem, as after I defeat the first 2 samurai with Gunter, I'm faced with the Fire Emblem 3 choices of 1. Move down to activate the lower Dragon Vein and then die to the archers on enemy phase, 2. Move down to activate the upper Dragon Vein, cross the bridge and then have no good options to engage the enemies, and die to the archers on enemy phase. Finally, I had the third option of crossing the upper bridge, where I will eventually die to the archers on enemy phase, but I wouldn't die immediately, and it was the best of the 3 options I could make, as on the upper choke none of the enemies initially move. So I found that I could attack the samurai on the fort with Jacob, then I could shelter him out of the enemy's attack range with Gunter, and drop Jacob down with Korin. Next turn, I could repeat this plan to slowly decrease their HP and eventually defeat them, leaving just an archer occupying the fort. To beat them, I just debuffed them with Jacob on enemy phase, and then paired Jacob with Gunter to boost speed, allowing Gunter to double and secure the KO. The archers here will never kill Gunter on enemy phase because of guard gauge. The next turn, I can take the fort and now have an easy time defeating the nearby units. The enemies around the boss were also simple to beat. I could pretty much just solo with Gunter and head back to the fort if I ever need any healing. The Sky Knights were easy too, so I reached the boss pretty quickly, turned animations on, and in battle, my game crashed. So I had to play the map again, and on this attempt, Gunter crit the archer on the fort, which made Gunter gain 2 less guard gauge points, so he died to the archers, and I had to reset. Next time around, I actually made it to the boss, and since they don't heal, Jacob and Gunter had an easy time defeating them, allowing me to seize the point and finish the chapter. But of course, my game now crashed again, so I had to do everything again. 15 minutes later, I beat the map for real, watched this cutscene, which is always funny to me, and moved on to chapter 4. This map is pretty easy. At first, I just frontlined with Rinka to bait in some of the Faceless so Green Unit Ryoma could steal the EXP. Once I defeated the Faceless, I pushed north, stalled for 1 turn so Korin could safely activate the Dragon Vein to speed up Ryoma, allowing him to protect his sisters so I could talk to Hinoka for the concoction that might be useful on the next map. With Kaze on the mountains, I now carefully handled the 3 remaining normal Faceless and for the boss, I engaged with Kaze and enemy phased for a few turns until Renka was injured. Then I backed away and switched to Kaze for a little more chip damage, and retreated on the next turn to use Sakura to heal up. With Renka's health restored, I easily managed to bring the boss down, and I intentionally gave the kill to Renka as I wanted Kaze to be as strong as possible for the next chapter, Chapter 5. I opened this map by placing Corrin in range to take the two mercenaries to the left side of the map. Here, she actually took a lot of damage because of her level ups, but she was still powerful enough to one-shot. After waiting a turn, I used Azura to help Corrin kill the other two aggressive units, and on the following turns, I moved most of my team over to the right to prepare to engage the next enemy squad. By placing Kaze here, I lured in the next enemy group, the reinforcements now showed up, and after I killed one with Corrin, I backed away with Kaze, and thanks to guard gauge, he could now take on two foes on enemy phase. By backing away again and healing, Kaze could fight another two mages on enemy phase. Now, because of the two units moving into the right, I had to move Corrin in to take out the mercenaries with the help of Azura. After I barely survived enemy phase, I could easily dispatch the remaining mages, and realized that I made a mistake setting this challenge up, as I forgot to set Feral Dragon's growth rates to 0, so Corrin lost 2 HP points here. Anyway, I now moved down to the boss and enemy phased with Corrin until I won. After fixing my mod and replaying the previous map, I moved on to Chapter 6. On turn 1, I set Leo up to engage Takumi on enemy phase, and next turn I secured the kill with Corrin and gained another level. So now, she almost has 0 in every stat. With Jacob and Camilla, I now defeated Hinoka, and continued my advance by baiting in Yukimura and securing the KO on the next turn. Now to beat the map, I just had to defeat Sakura, which was easy. Moving on to Chapter 7, I'm actually going to struggle a little, because this map is designed around your Corrin having more than 0 speed and defense. Anyway, at first here, I tried to engage the Southern Faceless with Jacob, but next turn, I just barely didn't have the damage to kill. So next attempt, I used a HP tonic on Corrin, and now, with Jacob's defensive boosts, she could just barely survive one round of combat against the Faceless on enemy phase. Immediately on the next turn, Jacob then Corrin could attack to take them down, and now I was joined by two great units. After pairing up Corrin and Jacob, I blocked the lower choke, then moved Silas, who has his personal skill active, to block the northern choke, and used Elise to heal Jacob. We now survived enemy phase and gained two more useful units who will now block the northern choke, so Silas can safely move down to assist my team in the south. With his personal skill active and Elise's personal skill boosts, I had no trouble with the Southern Faceless, including the boss, who couldn't kill Silas as long as Elise was nearby to heal off the chip damage from Grizzly Wound and Savage Blow. While this happened, Effie easily held the northern choke, and when the boss was low, I moved her down to take the experience, because I wanted her to reach level 10 for chapter 10, so I could promote her for lower experience gain and a similar stat spread compared to her base stats. Anyway, for the remainder of the chapter, I pretty much just held the choke point with Effie, and since she could only really be attacked by one unit at a time, there wasn't any risk she could die with Elise and Jacob's skills that boosted defense. So she reached level 9, and eventually routed the map to clear the chapter. So next, I was on to Chapter 8. On turn 1, I just visited the first village, and moved the rest of my team to the left to set up for the next turn, where we are going to be joined by Niles and Odin, who I'm going to pair up and move to attack this Dark Mage at 2 range. After moving some units near Niles, I'm going to activate the Dragon Vein with Elise to freeze the lake and make it so the mages can only target Niles, and they can only target him at 2 range, so he can counterattack and kill them all. Now I'm going to move my whole team left and make sure to separate all of them, so if Flora freezes one of my units, they can just pair up to negate the movement penalty. Once enemy phase ended, I froze a nearby soldier to protect the village, and since some units were moving in from the right, I placed Niles and Silas in enemy range to get some chip damage in and kill a mage. After securing the village with Jacob, I carefully used dual strikes to dispatch the 3 nearby fighters, and just after I did this, the northern soldier visited the final village, sending a couple of units my way. To beat them, I just baited them through this choke with Silas, and then on my player phase, I used Odin, Niles, and Effie to take out the 2 fighters, and after attacking a mage with Jacob, I activated the second Dragon Vein to prevent the 3 nearby mages from moving to keep my team safe. On the following player phase, I swiftly dispatched the 3 mages, and since none of the remaining units were aggressive, I could just move my squad up to engage the boss, Kilmer, who is actually pretty tough with his Nosferatu and Vantage combo. At first, I tried using Jacob, who couldn't really do any damage, and then I tried using Niles, but he also didn't have a good matchup here. Ultimately, I just ended up using Effie with a Javelin, who dealt more than enough damage to keep up with his healing, and with a lucky dodge, I managed to defeat him. On Chapter 9, I immediately sent Corrin southeast to recruit Nyx, and I sent everyone else to the top entrance of the fort and engaged the first archer with Odin on enemy phase. After waiting a turn, I sent in Nyx to kill the archer, and I did this because I want her to reach level 10, so I can promote her to have a good unit to use for the top left Onis on Chapter 10. Anyway, after stalling out the Shrine Maiden's Enfeeble, I broke down the wall into the fort and used Arthur and Nyx to dispatch the Spear Fighter to clear our way to the next wall that I broke down and choked the point with Effie. Here, she got very close to reaching level 11, which I didn't want to happen as I wanted her to be as strong as possible for Chapter 10. So I immediately sent her back, and now just used Silas, Arthur, and Nyx to clear out the Spear Fighters and the roaming Samurai. Being careful to avoid the reinforcement zone, I now moved my team over to the right, activated the Dragon Vein for chip damage, and then engaged the next 3 units to the south, with Niles taking on the Archer, and Effie, Nyx, and Corrin taking down the Spear Fighters. After defeating the Samurai, I now blocked all of the stairs and activated the reinforcements, which won't show up since I'm blocking them. Next, I moved to the left to fight the archers with my mages, and once they all died, I headed straight for Haitaka, and promoted Effie to make her almost equal in power to a normal level 6 Effie. With her help, I dealt some chip damage to Haitaka during the next 2 enemy phases, and this set me up to kill on the subsequent turn by moving in Odin to use Heartseeker to lower a void. Then I healed up Effie, attacked with Niles, followed up with Effie, and safely dealt the killing blow with Silas, allowing me to seize and clear the map. With that map completed, Corrin reached an A rank support with Effie, which I want because Corrin is going to need to reclass to General for Wary Fighter later on. Anyway, for Chapter 10, I made sure to buy tonics for my key combat units, and here I promoted Nyx and reclassed Corrin so she gave better pair-up bonuses in strength and defense. With my preparations complete, I finally moved on to Chapter 10. On my first 3 attempts here, I made a few minor mistakes of me just forgetting to trade items, so I think my overall strategy is best explained if we start on attempt number 4. Okay, so at first, I used the Fire Orb and Ballista to chip down the Spear Fighters, and after dancing, I broke down the left wall with Niles, Arthur, and Silas, clearing Effie a path south, so by separating, she could take on the Spear Fighters on enemy phase. To end my turn, I picked up the Master Seal with Elise and sent Nyx to the northwest. On enemy phase, Effie will now kill the 2 Spear Fighters, and some enemies will approach, with the Eastern Onis being the scariest, since I don't have a good unit to fight them yet. Anyway, to start off turn 2, I one-shot a ninja with Effie, and used one of her dual strikes to kill the other. Nyx now one-rounded the Oni near her, so her job on this map was pretty simple. With my remaining units, I froze a ninja near the Onis, allowing a paired up Arthur and Silas to choke the point, and after a sing, be healed by Elise. On enemy phase, Arthur is going to be lunged, and a couple of units are going to move in, but defeating them should be easy with Camilla, Selena, and Baruka's help. At first, I used Baruka and Niles to take out the nearby Sky Knight, then with Odin, I opened the way for Arthur to run away, where he will switch to Silas and trade over the Master Seal. Now I'm going to transfer Silas over to Azura and pair up Arthur and Elise, so Camilla can move in to transfer over Arthur and obtain a hand axe to lunge south. Selena is now going to move east, and then I'm going to transfer over Silas and sing for her so she can hold the upper right ballista and promote while holding a traded over bronze bow. Before doing this, I used Elise to freeze the lower right Sky Knight to protect Odin and moved here with Effie. Now enemy phase began with Effie baiting in a ninja and spear fighter, Camilla getting chip on the Onis, and Selena destroying the archers with powerful bronze bow counterattacks. Once enemy phase ended, I moved Effie back and then positioned Odin away from the ninja that attacked him, and sent in Niles to secure a KO. With Baruka, I tried to kill the adjacent Sky Knight, but missed, so Camilla had to take the kill. This next enemy phase ended up being very productive. Effie got some good counterattacks in, Selena dispatched the final 2 units in the north, and Camilla defeated all of the nearby Onis. Next turn, I just cleared out the remaining units nearby, so I got a lot of kills on player phase, and even did some good work on enemy phase 2, with Camilla defeating Obero on this turn. After this, some reinforcements appeared along with some flyers, so I spent the turn mostly just taking down some flyers, and using a Fire Orb to set Nyx up to kill with Nosferatu on enemy phase, which didn't help because she just missed. And now, the map got a lot harder as Takumi activated the Dragon Vein. To handle the Onis to the lower right, I sent down Camilla and Selena to the left. Then, I backed up with Effie to kill a Sky Knight and be in a good position to get boosted by Elisa's personal skill and take on the incoming units. After firing the Fire Orb and dispatching an Oni with Nosferatu, enemy phase began, with Nyx surviving an Oni's attack thanks to guard gauge and her missing the other Oni. Now, Effie defeated most of the nearby spear fighters and got some chip damage in on Hinata. After Camilla secured some kills on the Onis, some reinforcements came in and the units near Nyx were particularly problematic. First though, I defeated 3 units with Effie's squad, then I retreated with Nyx and visited the 2 remaining villages, leading into the next enemy phase where luckily Nyx now actually hit the Onis in her attack range to defeat them. With Camilla and Selena on the right side of the map, I didn't have to worry about anything over there, so the only troublesome opponents left were the 6 enemies to the south of Nyx. After dispatching the 2 flyers with Niles, I unfortunately missed the ninja with Effie, and if I didn't do anything, she would now die on enemy phase. So I used the Fire Orb to get some chip damage in, and then secured 2 kills with Baruka and Nyx, keeping Effie safe, but not Nyx, because I didn't notice the Southern Ninja, and he set up the Onis to kill both her and Jacob. I could easily win from this position, but I wanted a perfect victory, so I reset the map and tried again. This time, I didn't get unlucky with Nyx, so when the reinforcements came in, all of the other nearby Onis were already defeated, meaning now I could defeat the 2 Onis that killed Nyx before. With Nyx and Effie, I defeated the other nearby units and lured in the paired up ninja on enemy phase. After killing both them and the final ninja, I just waited until turn 12 where I beat the map and moved on to chapter 11. This map is in general very easy. On turn 1, I just moved my team towards the lower right room and frontlined with Camilla to take out 3 Onis on enemy phase. Next player phase, I killed an Oni with Camilla, and thanks to her personal skill, Nyx managed to one-shot Rinka, and Selena could take out the remaining Oni. Pushing into the next room, I realized I forgot to deploy a lock touch unit, so I reset and replayed the first few turns. Then with Nyx paired up with Odin, I pretty much soloed Izama's room since she could one-shot the archers with Nos, and her high res made it easy to tank and defeat the mages. After finishing off Izama, I moved Camilla into the center room to kill the ninja, and she easily survived enemy phase, but because of lunge, she couldn't retreat to the rest of my team to heal, so I sent her up to Hinoka's room, then paired up Selena and Niles to have a unit with 9 movement, allowing them to entirely ignore the lower room and deliver a vulnerary straight to Camilla. After Camilla healed up, I sent her into enemy range and eventually teamed her up with Effie to take this enemy squad down, moving me on to the final room. With Elise and Camilla's personal skills, Effie could reliably deal good damage to Hinoka, and just before killing her, I lunged a ninja out of the way in Kaze's room so Niles could swoop in and take the spirit dust in the chest, which I'm going to need for later. With one more attack, I finished off Hinoka and beat the chapter. Next up, I decided to do the only paralog I'm allowed to do in this run, and overall this map is very simple. With Selena, I easily dispatched the Faceless to the top left, and with Effie and Odin, I pushed south to recruit Mozu, who originally I thought could be decent since she can actually get really good skills. The problem is that getting those skills is pretty hard, so after I killed most of the Faceless on the map with Mozu, I ended up giving up on this idea, and moving on to chapter 12, I just used her as a pair-up bot. This is another relatively easy chapter. At first, I sent Nyx and Selena up to deal with a spear fighter, and then I broke the lock and defense pot to buff Camilla and Effie. After moving Effie north, enemy phase began with her baiting in a ninja, and Selena getting some chip on the spear fighter, so Nyx could finish them off next turn. Across the subsequent turns, I defeated all of the units in the first area of the map, and because I wanted the Flame Shuriken for the end of the game, I baited out Saizo with Camilla and killed on player phase. The rest of my army now pushed through the left side of the map, having no trouble with the samurai, allowing me to quickly reach the door and open it with Kaze. The reinforcements now appeared, so I had to push up, and handled the 3 units in the next room. After using Selena's counterattacks to defeat the nearby ninja, I broke down the way into the next room, but to the south, I was having a little trouble holding back the apothecaries. With a little thinking, I managed to get Effie set up in a way that the spear fighters that dealt no damage to her blocked the door choke point, so the apothecaries could no longer attack or do anything really. While I did this, my other units gradually defeated most of the enemies surrounding Ryoma, making it safe for me to break the freeze pot. Next turn, I used Nyx to kill an enemy, Azura to dance Nyx, Perry to shelter Azura to safety, and Camilla to take out the second spear fighter. Across the final few turns, I set up my team to clear a way to the escape point and the second chest. On this turn, I could escape with Corrin and win, but I wanted the stat booster that Ryoma dropped, so I moved Nyx adjacent to Ryoma to lower a void, then moved Jacob in to boost Camilla's defense so she wouldn't die to an unlucky crit and could safely attack. With Azura, I now danced, and thanks to Laszlo's rally and Azura's inspiring song, Camilla can double and take Ryoma down, earning her first level up and moving me on to chapter 13. Okay, so at first here, I sent Selena with an Armor Slayer to the right to defeat all the armored units, and with some stat boosts from Perub, Laszlo, and Azura, Kaze had the offenses to one-round all 3 mages to the left. After Selena defeated the knights on enemy phase, I retreated with her to heal up and place Kaze in a forest to bait out Orochi's squad. At this point, the powerful paired-up wyverns moved in, so I had to be careful. Okay, so first I killed Orochi with Camilla, then blocked the mages with Kaze, danced Camilla, and placed her in the wyvern's attack range. All of my units now retreated left out of enemy range, except Selena, who positioned on the gate tile with an Armor Slayer to lure in the wyverns. Now I used Kaze to finish off the mages, and used Camilla's magic to defeat the wyvern who was in a tricky location to attack. With Charlotte, Selena, and Benny, I now formed a defensive wall to keep my squishy units safe, and once enemy phase concluded, I defeated all of the nearby units on player phase. To rescue the Fire Emblem 4 houses, I now quickly moved south and engaged the Cavs with Benny. Now, on player phase, I realized that my team is not nearly strong enough to kill all of these units this turn, and because of their high movement, retreating wasn't an option. So I tried to do the best I could, and with the help of Effie, Corrin, Charlotte, Benny, Camilla, and Laszlo, I cleared out 4 Cavs, leaving just Reyna and 2 Cavs, with the one in the back armed with a Beast Killer. With Selena, I managed to take down Reyna, but now the Cavs had a clear path towards Charlotte, who would die in 1 hit. To protect her and ensure a safe enemy phase, I now danced Selena, transferred over Mozu, and attacked to build up a guard gauge. Now, the Beast Killer Cav will see a kill on Selena and move first to block the tile in front of Charlotte, so the Steel Lance Cav won't be able to kill, and I can finish them both off on the next turn along with the Outlaw. With those units defeated, I moved up and set up my engage on Scarlet Squad in the south, by enemy facing with Camilla to defeat 1 unit. Unfortunately, this was a mistake, because the reinforcements now appeared, and my team could not take all the enemies here at once. After trying my best to clear away to the left, Charlotte unfortunately missed in 85%, so I had to bring in Effie, who died in 1 round of combat on enemy phase, and so did Corrin, so I had to try again. Next time around, I deployed Nyx instead of Arthur to help against the wyverns. On this attempt, I used a shield gauge to make killing Reyna way easier, and this time decided to engage Scarlet from the north to give me more space and a little bit of chip damage on another wyvern. With Effie and Nyx, I defeated the paired up units south of Camilla, allowing her to move in and lunge Scarlet south, if she didn't land a 1% crit to just kill her. Now, Selena could trade Camilla an axe and take out the only scary nearby enemy. On the next player phase, I dispatched the wyverns and used Benny and Effie to split up the cavalry reinforcements and chip their HP down enough that defeating them was easy. Now I could visit the Fire Emblem 2 houses and bait out Takumi with Selena, allowing Nyx to secure the kill. Finally, I visited the last house, then with Benny and Camilla frontlining, the final 3 knights were simple to beat. After I promoted a couple of my units, I moved on to chapter 14. Here, I initially moved Laszlo south to bait in the archers, and with Camilla frontlining, the rest of my team moved towards the choke to the right. Once enemy phase ended, I recruited Keaton and killed 3 Sky Knights. With guard gauge, Laszlo survived the incoming enemy phase, and after the Sky Knights moved in, I had a clear shot to kill them on player phase. With them gone, and with Benny blocking the lower choke, dispatching the remaining aggressive units was easy. Now, I continued north to bait out the Onis, and easily dispatched them with my Bow Knights. Azura now gained a level, and almost has 0 stats. Once I collected the northern chest, I set my squad up so Kaze could run south for the gold, and then Camilla could attack the boss, setting Leo up to kill and end the chapter. Chapter 15 is one of the more interesting chapters for this run, as the map is pretty much designed around you having a good Corrin, which I don't have, so I'll have to solo with Gunter. So the plan at first was to use a strength tonic to allow Gunter to one-shot the 2 nearby villagers. Next, I reclassed him to Wyvern for its skills, with rally defense being the most valuable. Using a javelin, Gunter now easily beat the 3 incoming units, and then I backed away to activate the Dragon Vein. Soon after this, I enemy phased both the ninja to the south and another squad on the northern side of the map. Here, I made a mistake, so I had to try again. Next time, I decided to delay using the Dragon Vein, and instead just fought the enemy squad I just baited out on my last attempt. With Azura's speed boosts, none of these enemies were particularly hard, and the real challenge of this map came from the enemies to the south. The first couple weren't that bad, but as I defeated more enemies, my gunter gradually became weaker, and then, when the scary enemies with seal skills moved in, I didn't have the time to reach the boss, so I took a risk and it didn't pay off. Because I activated the Dragon Vein too late, I was forced to rush here, so next time I activated it immediately, then moved gunter left to bait in a ninja. On turn 2, I defeated this ninja while blocking a choke point, and focused on buffing and healing with my northern gunter. Across the next 2 enemy phases, I defeated 2 more ninja, and some enemies moved in on the top island. After waiting 1 turn for them to approach, I enemy phased them, and on my next turn I moved my southern gunter out of the choke point to aim to bait the enemies into a location where I could fight them better, with this tile here. Once a few enemy phase passed, all the nearby units died, and now it was time to move up to fight the seal defense soldiers. With a javelin and my other gunters healing, this was pretty easy, and it rewarded me with a spirit dust that I'm going to need to beat the final boss. Around this time, more enemies moved in on the northern island, so to stay safe, I moved my team into this area here, which should keep me safe for a couple turns. Now, with my southern gunter, I moved up and around to avoid the seal strength fighters, because I didn't think I could beat both them and the boss in time since it was around turn 13. On turn 15, I attacked the boss with a javelin and healed to full with my other gunter, allowing me to deal some chip damage and survive enemy phase. By healing again, I had another damage opportunity on enemy phase, but that attack missed, and now my other squad was threatened by 2 incoming fighters. Since Azura couldn't escape, I had to block the way with Gunter, stalling my offense on the boss by 1 turn. But next turn, I could move away with both Azura and Gunter and even damage the boss, setting me up to kill the boss on turn 19 and beat the map, collecting all of the valuable stat boosters. Moving on to chapter 16, I reclassed my core into General because I need her to learn Rally Fighter for later, and I also reclassed Selena to Falcon Knight because I wanted her to get rally speed, and I also needed a 4th flyer to easily beat this chapter. We'll be starting on my 3rd attempt of this map because on my first attempt I forgot to pair up Azura, and on my second attempt the game crashed. Okay, so first Corrin is going to pair up with Gunter, and they're going to leave the boat to the south where no enemies can attack. My 3 other flyers are now going to head off the boat to the north, and Xander is going to move so that on the next turn he can one-shot an outlaw blocking the way to the green unit. Camilla and Baruka are now going to move to the right, Selena is going to head to the left to be in range of a green unit, and Gunter will do the same. Once enemy phase ends, Xander is going to kill the nearby outlaw, making it safe for me to sing Camilla, allowing her to switch to Leo so he can talk to the far right green unit. Nothing noteworthy is going to happen during enemy phase, and next turn I can talk to the 2 green units to the left side of the map, and then the final one near Xander. This will reveal Shura, and by attacking 2 times with Xander, I can defeat him to end the chapter. Here I'm going to choose to recruit Shura since he's a pretty good unit, and I'm going to need someone with pass for the final chapter. What's worth noting here is Shura is the final main story unit I can recruit, so outside of Flora and Izana, my team is only going to get weaker from here on out. Fortunately, the next chapter, chapter 17, isn't a particularly difficult one, but it is very slow. Xander can just sit in this choke point and not take any damage from the ninjas. With a javelin, he can slowly kill them, but I didn't want him gaining too many levels, so I just used his help to feed some experience to my weaker units like Laszlo, who I wanted to train up to level 5 for rally skill. When this got a little risky, I swapped him out for Shura, and since no one can really die here, let's skip ahead until this group of units has been defeated. Now, I'm going to move Xander up and just gradually bait in units and feed the kills to Benny, then eventually trigger the reinforcements. To beat these units, I'm going to head back into the choke point from before and easily kill them without any issues. Now Xander can just move up and defeat the enemy ninjas one by one. Since they don't deal damage to him and he has a 1-2 ranged weapon equipped, they won't attack him on enemy phase. I now continue to do this until the final wave of reinforcements came in, and to beat them, I did the exact same strategy as last time. So they were pretty easy to dispatch. Once they were defeated, I began to move my team out of the starting corner, collected the chests, and easily dispatched the unit blocking the way to Kotaro. For the final room, I'm just going to send Xander in with a javelin, and because they can't damage him, they will not attack on enemy phase. This allowed me to safely kill the lunge swordmaster, and then lure in the right ninja with Shura. Shura now defeated this guy, and then the other ninja, giving me a clear path to Kotaro. After clearing the caltrops with Shura, I sheltered him out of Kotaro's range, then moved Elise and Camilla up to support Xander with their personal skills and attacked with a javelin. To make sure Kotaro didn't switch to his flame shuriken, I sheltered Xander out of enemy range and dropped him with Leo. By continuing to do this, Xander will eventually take Kotaro down and end the chapter. On chapter 18, at first, I had Keaton hold this choke to the right to hold off the heroes, and after waiting a turn, I placed Benny in range to lure in the southern armored units. Following that, I transferred Effie over to Camilla and used her hammer to gradually chip down all of the units around her. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, I moved Xander down and separated to lure in a squad of enemies to move them away from the two boss generals. Here he got frozen and could just pair up to move away, and for basically the rest of the map, he held this choke point here. So let's switch back to my team on the left. Right now, they've just finished off the initially aggressive units, so they can safely move up to defeat the strategist and use a variety of attacks to down the general, clearing me a path up to the paired up bosses that I couldn't take immediately. I had to deal with the Southern Cavalry first, and Benny was my best shot to handle them. Since he could survive for a few turns by himself, I spent my next 2 turns fighting off the reinforcements and building up Camilla's guard gauge. Now, I finished off all of the normal units and set my sights on taking out the bosses. Thanks to an enfeeble on a previous turn, Camilla could attack into the bosses with her hammer and deal significant damage thanks to Savage Blow. This would build up a guard gauge so she could survive enemy phase. By moving Elise adjacent next turn, Camilla managed to down one boss and Savage Blow down the other, so Keaton could land the final blow. On the other side of the map, Xander had just built up the necessary guard gauge to sprint towards Zola, get danced, and be in range to attack. Unfortunately, he missed here, so I had to do the whole map again. Luckily, next time he actually hit his 2 attacks, and I beat the map. The furry map, Chapter 19, is a map that I originally didn't want to cheese because I didn't want my flyers gaining too many levels. But after playing like 75% of the map, almost entirely relying on Benny, he eventually lost too many stats and died to like a 10% crit, and I couldn't win from here without him, so I had to reset. On this next attempt, I just did the cheese strategy, which entails deploying mostly flyers and camping on the mountain tiles which the Kitsune can't move to. Here I can just attack and attack until the Kitsune die. With there being no risk, I can take any damage. If no enemies are in my attack range though, I need to move to a safe area away from the mountains to get the Kitsune to eventually reposition in range for me to safely attack again. This strategy is very slow, but it is very reliable. After about half an hour of doing this, I defeated all of the Kitsune on the right side of the map, and to bait in the rest, I had to move in attack range. Benny was my best bet to lure them in, and after I triggered them to move, I transferred and paired up to fly out of enemy range, and then proceeded to camp on the mountains again. About an hour later, all the Kitsune but the final group were defeated, and Camilla was now level 9, and Baruka was level 20. Kaiden's squad could now be engaged the same way as the other squads were, so I baited him out and lured him all the way over to the mountains. After chipping him down, I defeated him and completed my LTC of the map in almost 600 turns. Now, I quickly did Invasion 1 to build up Xander's Lance rank to C. The map itself was really easy, so let's skip over it, and now I'm going to buy Xander a Killer Lance for Chapter 20. My first attempt here was me just figuring out what to do, and my second attempt missed an important freeze on turn 1. So let's just start on attempt 3. Okay, so I'm going to open this map by freezing this mage right here. Now, if we look over here, we'll see some Kinshi Knights, who don't actually move unless you're in range of the nearby Lance users. So it's completely safe for me to use Anazura Singh to position my flyers in a line right here. Now, on enemy phase, Camilla is the only unit going to be attacked, which she can barely survive. Next turn, my units will be pushed north by the wind, which places Xander in range to strike Fuga, and if he crits, I can take him down in one shot. Unfortunately, on this attempt, I've messed up, as I didn't have a unit in range to seize, since Camilla was my furthest north flyer, and she had to move next to Xander so he had the damage to kill. So I changed my plan to position Selena to be the furthest north flyer, and I also sent Baruka and Shura to the west to pick up the chest with rescue, which I'm going to want for later. Now, all I had to do was crit Fuga again, which eventually happened, and I moved on to Chapter 21, another easy one. To beat this map, I just need to reclass Xander to Wyvern to have a flyer with good defense, then I need to pair Xander up with Corrin and just gradually move north and use concoctions to heal. By placing him up against these walls, Xander won't get surrounded, so I can keep moving him up, and on turn 5 he will be in range to escape to clear the chapter. Now I proceeded on to the hardest section of this challenge, Hoshido. The maps here are all very difficult in this run, so let's start this first chapter, Chapter 22. To start this map off, I'm going to group my whole team on the left side of the map, and first I'm going to engage the nearby blacksmiths with Leo, who actually does pretty good damage. This sets Korin up to take the kill, and a main objective of mine across this and the next two maps is leveling Korin up to level 15 for counter, as I'm going to need it if I want to beat Chapter 25. Similarly, to the left, I want to feed experience into Shura, as I need him to know pass for Chapter 28. With his archery, I now defeated these ranged units and moved Leo up to set Korin up to get 2 more kills and level up to level 7. With Keaton, I now engaged the Oni to the left and used 2 attacks to help Selena get the kill, as I also want her to gain 1 level for rally speed. After almost gaining a level with Shura, I moved over to the nearby fort to use up Sakura's silence, and then I placed Leo in range to bait in the mage, and then later kill. This made it safe for me to move Camilla right here to boost the power of Leo's lightning, allowing Xander to come in and get the kill. With Xander's sky high defense, he will survive Hana's 2 attacks unless she activates Rend Heaven twice, which did happen, and I had to retry the map. Next time around, I did this section of the map slightly differently, as first I froze the battering ram blacksmith, allowing Camilla to safely move here, setting Leo up to attack, get danced, and defeat them. Now Xander could move up to the front line and luckily land a crit to dispatch another enemy, level up, and be ready to take on Hana during enemy phase. This time around, she only activated Rend Heaven once, so Xander survived. By switching him over to a bronze axe, Camilla could now deal damage with a dual strike. Next, I retreated with Xander to buff him with Azura and rallies, giving him high enough hit to reliably take Hana down. After sheltering Camilla to keep her safe, I survived enemy phase with ease. Now, the remaining 2 blacksmiths weren't really that hard to beat. I just used Camilla's Savage Blow to set up 2 easy kills. Moving on ahead, I blocked the forts to the left, then used Xander's high defense to handle the paired up Mechanist, and then I set Korin up to kill the nearby Oni. Now, the only enemy I had to kill was Yukimura, and as you'd expect, Xander was really my only way to deal with him. So I enemy phased to use up his gold bar spendthrift combo and attacked twice on player phase. At this point, some paired up reinforcements came in to the south, meaning I had to end the battle on this turn. With Nyx and Benny's avoid decreasing skills and Laszlo's rally, I managed to make Xander's javelin throws very accurate, so landing the final 2 hits was easy. Finally, I could just seize the point to clear the chapter and lead into Chapter 23. On my first attempt here, I accidentally made Leo too strong and got him killed on enemy phase. Next time, I positioned the exact same way, but I didn't use rally speed, so Leo didn't kill the Master of Arms. This action baited in the other lancers to move, and it also spawned in some reinforcements. With Shura, I now defeated Rallyman, and then placed Xander in range to try to bait in more units on the north side of the map, because I didn't want any of them to overlap in range with the paired up reinforcements that were rapidly approaching my location. Since Xander couldn't really handle the Basara with his awful speed and rares, I now switched in Shura and Felicia to stall them across the wall. One turn later, the reinforcements were drawing near, and to actually have the damage to kill them, I needed to engage them on enemy phase, and a fully boosted Keaton was my best unit to do that. On my next turn, I placed Xander here to protect my team, and then just barely managed to take this Master of Arms down. During enemy phase, both paired up units ran towards my team, and this turn, there was no way I could defeat all 4 of them at once. The best I could do was chip one enemy down with Savage Blow to set Leo up to kill, and then use Xander and Keaton to drop the second unit into kill range. With my frontliners blocking the way forward, I survived enemy phase, but next turn wasn't going to be as easy, as what I didn't want to happen happened. A Life and Death Basara along with a spear user was in range to attack any units who tried to attack the nearby Master of Arms. The only way I could survive here was to carefully set up guard gauge, so I attacked with Felicia, which allowed Keaton to kill the first Master of Arms, then I sang for Felicia, and with a rally speed boost, she could actually double here with the Flame Shuriken, which built up a guard gauge and also set Leo up to kill. After moving some units away, enemy phase began, and since this unit sees a kill on Felicia, they'll attack her, and she will survive with guard gauge. The other units now didn't really do anything, and then next turn, I managed to obliterate them. From this point onward, I had no trouble surviving the next 3 incoming units that came at me one at a time, and once they were defeated, it was time to move up. With my flyers, I transported my team to the north here, then moved over to the sniper and killed with Leo. Looking ahead to the next room, I reclassed my Xander to Great Knight to lose his bow weakness. Now, I positioned Shura and Felicia to freeze 2 lunge units, and with a rallied up Xander, climbed up the stairs. Using lunge, I moved out of range of the other lunge unit and then ended turn. As a result of his stat buffs, Xander isn't going to get doubled by the Basara, so he will survive enemy phase. But unfortunately, this isn't good enough, because the Basara moved differently to how I expected, with one moving adjacent to Xander. Since he couldn't escape this room now, I just game overed on enemy phase. It took me a couple tries to get back to this point, but with a few optimizations like moving Keaton south to split up the reinforcements, it fortunately didn't take that long. This time around, I came prepared with a different strategy and also an entrap staff. Entrap isn't likely to hit, so I had to boost Elise's staff hit as much as possible with pair up rallies and Azura, giving her a 32% chance to hit a Basara, and luckily the second use of entrap landed. With the combined strength of my team, I defeated the Basara and had a safe way into the next room. By buffing Xander here, the only unit that would engage him would be the Basara, and the other units would just move and not be in range to do any damage. Now, I just retreated with Xander to keep him safe, and then used the lower ballista to slowly damage Oboro squad. During enemy phase, the enemies are going to run back to their original position, making it safe for me to send Xander back up to kill the Basara. This is going to move the units again, allowing me to fire the ballista again, and gradually during this section of the map, I plan to use this to drop most of Oboro's squad down to 1 HP, so I wouldn't have to deal with lunge. First though, I had to handle these snipers, which don't actually deal any damage to Xander, so this first one I can attack for free, but since I don't want to give Xander too much experience, I decided to send in Leo to take the final blow on enemy phase. Unfortunately, he now got trapped, and I had to use my only disposable use of Rescue. The final 3 uses of it were locked for use on chapters 26 and 28. In order to not make this same mistake again, I equipped Xander with a javelin to bait in a sniper and keep a clear path to the stairs, so Leo could safely now enemy face a sniper until Xander could kill. The next sniper I ended up killing with Xander, and a sniper with the lowest attack I lured in with Leo and killed across a few turns. With all the snipers defeated, I had now cleared the way to the ballista, and this was the key to beating the next enemy group of lunge spearmasters. With them in range to attack any units near the ballista, you might think I couldn't use it to win here, but with the skill Shelter, it was possible. To execute this plan, I moved Shura in range to attack with the ballista and sang for him with Azura. Now Gunter came in to shelter Azura, but this placed him in enemy range, so I need to move Shura below him and transfer over Azura so I can dance again and move Gunter to safety. Next, I can leave down the stairs, wait a turn, and then repeat this method on the next turn to deal another 5 damage. By repeating this plan over and over again, I can drop all of the Spearmasters down to 1 HP, allowing me to safely enemy phase 2 units with Keaton and kill the remaining one with Shura. Now, all that there was left to do in this room was beat Oboro's squad, that I can actually beat in almost the exact same fashion as the last group. I can lure them near the ballista, then fire, dance, and shelter to safety. This isn't actually able to damage Oboro because her defense is too high, but after I dealt with the paired up Master of Arms, I found a safe setup to make her switch with her pair-up partner that would be affected by the ballista and eventually be killed by Leo. During this setup, the 1 HP lunge paired up Spearmaster switched places with the full HP one to dual strike, and this set me up to drop the healthy one down to 1 HP too, allowing Gunter to safely kill both on enemy phase without risking getting lunged. Using Leo, I now slowly chip down the Basara on enemy phase, and Oboro by herself wasn't too hard to take down. Now, I moved up towards the final enemy squad, and they were much easier to beat than the last. I just froze the lunge Spearmaster to only lure in the Basara with Xander, then I ran down the stairs and killed them over the wall. The other 2 units were just as easy. I just baited them out on enemy phase, ran away to heal, and then repeated the plan until they started to fall one by one. Moving on to Takumi, initially I tried to lower his avoid and stats with Felicia, which eventually worked. Then I moved Benny and Leo in to increase my hit, and attacked with Xander 2 times, setting Keaton up to secure the kill, allowing me to seize and clear the chapter. Since my team was getting pretty weak now, I determined that now was the perfect time to recruit Flora, and after reclassing Corrin to Oni Chieftain to get counter, I started chapter 24 by making a mistake of placing Flora in range of the mages to the north. These units are linked to the Oni Chieftains and mages to the left side of this map, so this makes them move, and it also makes some reinforcements appear across the next few turns. I could not deal with these units combined with the incoming flyers, and I gave up my first attempt pretty quickly. This time around, I didn't engage the mages to the north and just waited for the enemies to approach. This wasn't the correct play, as after Hinoka activated the Dragon Vein, I got pincered between the Falcon Knights above and the Kinshis to the left. There was not enough space to keep my team safe here, so I lost a lot of units on enemy phase and decided to just try again. 2 attempts later, I came up with a new plan of rallying up Flora on turn 1, pairing her up with Camilla and singing for them to move up and engage the Falcon Knights on enemy phase with the Hunter's Knife. What's worth noting here is this Kinshi Knight isn't going to move to attack Flora, and this is going to be important to remember for later. Anyway, now I'm going to heal Flora with a concoction and move Xander in attack range of the lower Kinshis. Because Flora held off the Falcon Knights, there is going to be a small space for my support units to stand. So during enemy phase, no one important is going to die, Flora is now going to deal good damage, and the Western Kinshis are going to approach me. Next turn, with Xander's Beast Killer, I dispatched the Kinshis, and the turn after, it was safe for Flora to switch back to Camilla to rejoin my team next turn, while I baited in 3 additional flyers. I easily got kills with Xander and Shura here, but the final enemy I specifically fed to Corin because she needs to reach level 15 for the next chapter. After killing the final incoming flyer, Corin was level 12, so she was still pretty far away from gaining counter. So ideally, I wanted to give her some kills from the upcoming 5-unit squad, but they were actually pretty difficult, so I ended up killing the mages with Flora, and by backing away twice, I managed to get some chip damage on the battering ram Oni with Xander. Immediately, with Camilla's Savage Blow, I set Shura up for a kill, then used Flora to feed Xander some experience, and Dance to take out the remaining units. Now, all of the initially aggressive units were defeated, and fighting any more enemies was going to be very risky. So I paired my units up with flyers and flew north from the far right side of the map, which is completely safe because we know this guy doesn't move. This will allow me to position my team to engage Hinoka without interacting with the rest of the map. The only issue is Hinoka is very difficult to take down. None of my units have a good matchup into her, she's just too evasive. Since I had pretty much already lost this chapter because Corin wasn't level 15 yet, I decided to just experiment and charged in with Xander, who activated Luna, meaning this attack from Flora could actually kill Hinoka. It didn't, but it was possible. I now ended my turn, some units died, and my run here was now over. I had to try again. But by failing here, I managed to notice a weakness that would give me a good chance to win the next time I got to this point. This actually took a long time to do because a lot can actually go wrong on this chapter, and most of these issues involve Flora getting some level of bad luck, which just results in her dying. Anyway, reset number 51 was my next good attempt. The main changes I implemented here was on turn 2 I had Xander paired up with Keaton instead of Corin, which lowered his defense to the point that he was actually attacked and could counter on the Kinshis. This damage allowed Corin to secure 2 kills on the Kinshis, and by surrounding the other, I could feed her the 3rd kill. Additionally, combining this with the kills I got before, and 2 kills from the final group of chieftains, gave Corin enough experience to reach level 15 and learn counter, the final skill she needed. Now I could set my team up to the north, and this time have Xander reclass to Wyvern. My new plan to engage Hinoka was to position Camilla and Elise in these 2 locations. Now I sent Flora in, transferred over Keaton to have enough speed to not get doubled, and ended turn. Hinoka now attacked Flora, activating Darting Blow that I forgot about, and killed her. Camilla and Elise stayed safe though, as the nearby Falcon Knights don't move for some reason. At this point, I realized that I needed to defense stack if I wanted to survive Hinoka's 2 attacks. So I returned to my castle and talked with Flora to gain a support point, which combined with 2 Seeds of Trust allowed me to reach a C-rank support with Corin, which will activate her good personal skill to increase hit, defense, and damage. If we now skip ahead to the final part of the map, I can use the same strat as last time to survive if Hinoka doesn't activate Luna. While Flora did die on this attempt, her counterattack damage allowed Xander to find lethal with a Beast Killer to defeat Hinoka, then I could gamble with a crit to defeat the Oni and seize to clear the chapter. Unfortunately, this wasn't good enough for me. I needed to keep Flora alive to beat chapter 26. So I replayed the map again, and 3 tries later, my plan actually worked, as on enemy phase, Flora didn't get lunared. Next turn, Laszlo could fly in to rally her strength by 1, allowing her next attack to kill. With Azura's song, she attacked again and survived thanks to guard gauge. Now, Xander came in and dealt the final blow with a bronze axe, securing me a perfect victory. On chapter 25, Ryoma with his ancient samurai techniques challenges Corin to a 1v1 duel. and since my Kurin has 0 in almost every stat, I needed to do a few preparations to win here. So first, I purchased a Seraph Robe to boost HP, then I reclassed Kurin to General and had her equip a Javelin along with this skill set. I now entered battle and moved towards Ryoma, and as you can see, Kurin can't normally deal damage here, so what I need to do is wait patiently for 20 turns. After that, I will begin my assault by placing Kurin with a 1 to 2 range weapon adjacent to Ryoma. Because the enemy AI can't see the skill counter, Ryoma is going to attack at 1 range and take damage to counter. By repeating this method, it was possible for Kurin to beat him, but she will lose if he activates Astra or crits, which happened to me on my first try. I now actually redid my preparations for this map, and this time I didn't reclass Kurin. I kept her on only Chieftain so she could use fire magic for the extra crit avoid. Heading into battle, I now moved next to Ryoma, waited 20 turns to begin my assault, and then gradually brought him down with counter. After 6 turns of doing this, I actually defeated him, ending the chapter and moving me on to the final hard map for this challenge, Chapter 26, which I needed all the help I could get to beat. So I recruited Izana, used almost all of my stat boosters on him, and gave him a heart seal for later, as if I want to beat this challenge, Izana needs to learn Spendthrift during this chapter so I can beat Takumi on Chapter 28. With my preparations complete, I finally started the chapter. At first, I broke down the door to engage the 4 heroes, and specifically set Izana up to not kill because Izana can only gain 5 level ups from here to Chapter 28. If he gains 1 more than this, he won't have enough magic to kill Takumi. And on each of those levels, I need him to be on a specific class to set him up with the perfect skill set, so I can only reach level 14 on Merchant if I want to win this run. Anyway, this perfect amount of chip damage set up Shura to come in and get 2 kills. A reminder, he needs to reach level 15 for Chapter 28. Once I've taken out the other 2 units, I'm going to look south at Iago. He alternates which status magic he uses on each turn, with the order being Enfeeble for turn 1, Breeze for turn 2, Silence for turn 3, and Hexing Rod on turn 4. So I want to engage the next enemy squad on turn 10, because Freeze is the least impactful one for Izana out of those effects. This turn allowed Shura to secure another kill, and now I'm going to reclass Izana into Merchant, which is going to make him far weaker, and I'm going to plug the other side of the choke with Flora. Then on enemy phase, Izana is going to get his first level up, which is actually noteworthy because he has capped skill, which I believe has tricked the game into turning off negative growths in that stat. This isn't going to matter because it's skill, and I have like 2 extra secret books in my convoy. Next up was turn 12, Iago's Hexing Rod turn. So I wanted to move away, and the turn after, the combined power of my team dispatched these 3 heroes. Now I can't head south to kill the Hexing Rod maid because of the Entrap maid to the right, so I had to take them out first, which wasn't going to be easy because none of my units match up particularly well into the sorcerers to the south. So I paired up my best 2 units, buffed them the best I could, and let them get entrapped. The resulting enemy phase didn't go well, so I had to switch over to Izana and stall for turns while the rest of my team positioned to help out, as Izana was going to run out of healing items eventually. Because the Entrap Maid can attack, she's not going to entrap my units, so I don't have to worry about that. Now I opened the door and found that my units can't really beat these mages, so it looked like I might lose here, but I had 1 chance to beat them by risking it all with a crit, and it actually paid off. Now I danced Flora because Izana was frozen, then sheltered Azura to safety. With Flora, I attacked the mage for chip, then moved in Leo and Keaton to transfer Izana and just barely have the power to kill. Next turn, I used my whole team to kill this maid, and now I wanted to head to the left because I had a plan for later that required the left hallway with the Faceless to be clear. To beat them, I'm going to damage the wall first, then I'm going to wait until turn 34, Iago's freeze turn, and now I'm going to buff Flora, break down the door, and end my turn using Rally Magic. On enemy phase, she's just barely going to be able to double for decent damage, and next turn she needs to run away and get danced. Izana is now going to hold the line during Iago's silence turn to deal a little more damage and lure the Faceless away from the approaching Stoneborn. Next, I'm going to retreat again and have Xander move in range to distract the Stoneborn for 1 turn, giving me the space to finally attack the Faceless on player phase and defeat them. The lone Stoneborn to the south off is actually pretty hard to beat, so I had to wait a turn for them to move in closer, and then I buffed Flora and used Camilla and Elise's personal skills to survive a counterattack. With guard gauge, Flora could safely attack again, and now Leo could swoop in to get the kill. Next, I moved on to the hardest part of the map, the mage room. Since none of my units can safely break down the door without risking getting frozen, enfeebled, and then killed, I just decided to sacrifice Felicia to lure the mages away. Next turn, I engaged the furthest north mage with Flora, and this turn I had to take a risk to hold them back by blocking this choke with Flora equipped with a votive candle. Luckily, this enemy phase turned out pretty well despite Flora's low stats, and now I actually had to retreat. Here, I decided to lure one mage over the wall with Flora, making her lose the speed to double with a steel shuriken, and I also baited the Gugunga Gap mage towards Izana. This turn, I had to hold my ground to get in chip damage, as my team could not kill 3 mages in one turn. I did this with Flora holding a votive candle because it was risky, as it placed Flora in attack range of a high crit Mjolnir mage, which fortunately didn't crit. On player phase, with the combined power of my whole team, I finished these 3 mages off, and the 1 mage remaining was obviously easy to deal with. Next, I just cleared out the 3 easy units on the right side of the map to set up my strategy to cheese the lower room. To do this, I placed some of my army on the left side of the map and others to the right side of the map. Now, I moved Xander to this specific tile so he won't get attacked by the Stoneborn, but still get entrapped to skip the far left room. After he survives enemy phase, I'm going to attack into the wall with a Beast Killer and sacrifice Xander. Benny will now survive 1 hit from the maid and wield Xander's iconic lance to break down the door. Immediately following this, Niles is going to open the nearby door and get danced by Azura. Normally, she would die here, so I had to use a rescue to save her. Now, Niles could open the next door, and I ended my turn by placing Izana in range to bait out a general. After Niles and Benny died, you can sort of see what I've just set up. I've created a pathway so the enemies can reach me by heading all the way around the map clockwise, which is going to lure them out of the center room and away from my squad that is going to position near the right side of the map. By sacrificing Leo in the furthest north room, I stalled for more time, and when the enemies had moved enough, I had a completely clear path to Iago without having to do any fighting. After I opened the chest with the gold, I placed Flora in range of Iago and took 1 final risk. Fortunately, Iago didn't crit here, and Flora dealt some good damage back. To not risk any of my win conditions for the final 2 maps, I had to risk Flora's life again, and she died. But this sacrifice allowed Izana to safely drop Iago down to 1 HP, giving Shura an opportunity to land the final blow and level up both Shura and Izana, giving them both the skills necessary for chapter 28. After I opened the other 2 chests, I seized the point and cleared the chapter. In my castle, I now needed to do a few final preparations to be ready to finish this challenge. Okay, so first I'm going to buy an arm scroll, a speed wing, and a spirit dust for Izana. Next, I'm going to reclass him back to Omnioji and use that arm scroll to slightly boost his power from the weapon rank bonuses. Then I'm going to buy 2 Mjolnir and forge them together for more might. Now, the real world time was October 16th, the day when the new Pokemon game came out, which I wanted to play, and I specifically planned playing this game into this challenge, as right now I wanted Izana and Korin to build up an S rank support, and I can do this by visiting the private quarters with Izana a lot. The issue is to do this repeatedly, I needed real-world time to pass. So while I was busy doing something else, I did my castle dailies, and after like 3 weeks, I built up an S-rank support with Izana, allowing my Korin to reclass to Omnioji to provide Izana with the best mage pair-up stats with +4 magic and +4 speed. Now I was actually ready to take on Chapter 27. Here I deployed 3 sacrificial units to use up the entraps, and the room Izana was sent to was easy to deal with as lightning had the power to kill the sniper in 1 round of combat. This opened the door, and after waiting a few turns for the enemies to approach, I moved up the stairs and towards Garen. Here I realized that I don't actually have enough damage to outpace his healing, so I lost and had to try again. To fix this mistake, I deployed Azura paired up with Baruka, and because the entrap users only target your highest rating units, those 2 will never be entrapped, so they can just follow Izana all the way to Garen. Now, Izana can attack, get danced, and finish off Garen with lightning, loaning Tone Flare in the process. and moving me on to the final map of the game, Chapter 28. Okay, so on turn 1, I'm going to position my team like this to set up for turn 2, where I'm first going to rally Izana, next Camilla paired with Corrin will move here, and Perry will block the tile to the northwest. This will set Izana up to transfer over Corrin and rescue Shura to the lower position. Now, Gunter can shelter Perry out of the way, allowing Azura to dance. Now, using Pass, Shura can move past all the enemies and rescue Izana in range to attack Takumi. Here is where I realized that I made a mistake calculating this, as I misremembered how weapon triangle bonuses work and was 1 damage off killing Takumi with a double crit. Since I didn't stand a chance doing this map the normal way, I had to figure out a way to deal 1 more point of damage. But how would I even do that? I've set Izama up with all the stats I can get. How would I deal 1 more point of damage? After staring at the map for like half an hour, I noticed my win condition. It was right in front of me this whole time. With a new strategy, I attempted the map once again. For this plan, I placed my units like this on turn 1, and on turn 2, I used Rescue with Jacob to place Izana here, then I moved Shura nearby, and used Elisa's movement to ride down Azura to transfer over Elise and dance Izana. Now, I sheltered Azura and swooped in with Camilla to transfer Azura, allowing her to dance again. Now, Shura headed south to switch to Elise and move Izana down with Rescue. Thanks to Elisa's personal skill, Izana has the necessary power to kill with a double crit, so eventually the miraculous 1.4% chance will occur, allowing me to defeat Takumi and beat this game.